Hello, I'm Robyn Williams. I'm a curator and director here at Purple Noon Gallery. So welcome, I'm here to open our new exhibition, Palya, Art from the Desert. Before I get too far, many of you have asked, what does Palya mean? So in the Nanandara word dictionary, Palya means all right. And across most Indigenous languages, Palya means good. So it's good art, and I totally agree there. Let's start by looking at some of these wonderful artworks. This painting here is from Palya. It's an area where I did some research some years ago, and this is one of the newer artists who I'm not familiar with. So although I can give you an idea of perspective and size, I don't want to get into the iconography and the exact details about each painting, because that's not what this exhibition is about. Only the artist can give you a really detailed explanation of the work. If you buy a piece of Indigenous art from an art centre, you will get a certificate that will tell you about the artist and about this painting, and that is probably a much better way, rather than me waffle on about stuff that I really don't know, because as a general rule I can tell you a lot about the art, but each specific painting not so. So these paintings come from 3 remote art centres in the Western Desert: Palya artists, Wallakalungu artists from Uendamu, and Walioti artists from Balgo. So as we move around the paintings, I'll give you snippets of information relating to the art, and also to some of the research that I undertook a few years ago. On this back wall here, I have done a little bit of a story in black and white. I think in the contemporary era, people are looking for something, they were looking for that wow factor on the wall, and I think you'll find it here. So again, from some of the artists in Palya, and I really will have to be very careful because I'm not familiar with some of these artists. It's some years since I visited the community and did my research, but I definitely know this is Ethel Norell Holland, and this one here is one of the new younger artists, Veronica Brown. It's a very large painting, as you can see, and I think it looks stunning, and I think Jessica should be absolutely proud of that painting. It's wonderful. So you have a look at these paintings, and I'll sort of give you a little bit of a history here. So there's no long history of Aboriginal paintings in the desert regions of Australia. In these regions, Aboriginal people first painted on their bodies or on pieces of bark and timber, and by making designs in the sand or on rocks as they told their stories. More recently, painters have transferred these patterns and designs onto canvases to sell to the national and international markets. So art production in these remote Aboriginal communities is really important because it provides a means of earning income for these artists, and because, as my PhD argued, it's enmeshed with the structures of everyday cultural practices. So my findings demonstrated that art production itself is shown to be fundamentally enmeshed in socio-cultural practices and storied environments. And if there's one thing that I can tell you is that most of these paintings, these lovely big landscape paintings, they're really talking about landscape and country, whereas some of the other paintings might be talking about the Jukapa, or I think it's often called the dream time. So it's ancestral stories from thousands of years ago, still passed down and told. In the modern era, they're moderned up a little bit. So these paintings on the back wall here are all most of them are from Balgo. So you can see that's a big sand desert community. Helicopter, one of the top artists in Balgo, has just really captured that idea of the shimmering sand. Very hard to look closely at this painting, you sort of see it shimmer. Very popular artist. And there's a couple of smaller ones here, both helicopters as well. And then I've included these 2 paintings here now I'm going to have to look up, so I don't want to make any mistakes with the names, but I think this fellow's name is Leedham Nangara Wumi. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He's from the Uendamu area, a young artist, but I have brought in a few pieces of his art recently, and they sell very quickly. Really, really lovely work. So as you can see, this side of the gallery is more about the ochres and the sand and the black and white, and are fabulous paintings. So the paintings we are looking at, they embody the solid foundations of place and ancestral presence in the contemporary era. The motif is the beautiful desert landscape, and the power of the work is revealed through the artist's ability to express important ceremonial and ancestral connections collectively memorised in a contemporary way. So let's move over onto the pink side. And I guess I've been very motivated by comments from younger audiences. More particularly, I have a daughter who lives in New York, and she has expressed an interest in some paintings. And it was interesting that both my daughters love the pinks. A lot of young people love these pink colours. And interestingly, these pink colours are the colours of the desert. I remember asking some older painters, why do you paint pink? And they laughed at me. They said, you don't open your eyes, Robyn. Look at the plants. And these tiny little desert plants would spring up in the spring, and there'd be clusters of these beautiful pink and purple flowers. So in late 2016, I completed my doctoral research, which was an ethnography that examined the cultural and commercial art making practices of a small group of Empire Lands artists living in the Western Desert in the community of Palya. For 6 years, I travelled backwards and forwards to the community, during which time I was transposed into another world. I'm grateful to all the extraordinary Palya artists who I worked with and who tolerated my presence and taught me so much, and were part of the making of my thesis. These stories and art inspired me, and I'm indebted to the artists who agreed to the project, and they certainly made me welcome. I thank them unreservedly for their inspiration, confidences, and generous warm hearts. Many of the artists that participated are older now and not painting, but I'm happy to see many of the emerging artists take their places. And I love this one from Palya, which is one of the newer ones from one of the younger artists. And it's a really beautiful painting. I'm sure you'll enjoy the colours in that one. Now, some of these paintings in pink are already sold, which is wonderful. And again, as I said, I was inspired by the choices that my daughters made. I'm very happy to say that there's quite a group of these paintings on their way to New York, to expat Australians who are feeling a little bit homesick right now. So just briefly again, each dot and each curved mark on the canvas is important and represents events in Aboriginal cultural memory. These dynamic desert canvases represent the flows, the colours, and the textures of the country that the artists really know well. And I've certainly visited country a number of times, hunting, camping out, listening to stories in the desert. The paintings also embody collective memories, some of which are shared through arts practice. So through the art, these artists are establishing new ways in which to ensure the preservation and the transmission of knowledge, whilst creating the contemporary platform for appropriate cross-cultural interest and critique of their art. So I'm hoping that you're enjoying this tour. As I said before, I don't want to get too involved in talking about individual pieces, more about what they represent and how important they are to the artists. The artists actually put a lot of thought into these paintings. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand what each painting means, but as I said before, each dot, each line, they have very special collective memories for these people. And I think in the contemporary era, they have such a wow factor. So you can contact me for further details about the paintings or any information on the art. We open online right now, but the gallery will open as we normally do with our regular hours as from tomorrow. So thank you again, and please enjoy this exhibition. I'm thrilled to be presenting it. Thank you.